The rain fell hard on the glass dome of Seoul University's tech center. Tae-ho wiped his sweaty hands on his pants for the 5th time. His heart beat fast in his chest. Today was important, maybe the most important day of his life. 5 minutes until your presentation, said Professor Kim, checking his watch. Are you ready? Tae-ho nodded, though he wasn't sure if he was. 6 months of work led to this moment. 6 months of staying up late, missing meals, and turning down invitations from friends. All to prove one thing: humans could improve alien technology. The auditorium was full. Human students sat in the front rows. Behind them sat the aliens, visitors from 20 different worlds. The purple-skinned Stellari took up most of the 3rd row. Their 4 eyes blinked at different times, making it hard for Tae-ho to look at them directly. Professor Kim stepped onto the stage. Today, we have a special presentation from one of our top engineering students. Tae-ho will show us his work on stellary quantum communication technology. Please welcome him. Tae-ho walked to the center of the stage. His small device sat on the table, looking simple compared to the fancy stellary tech displayed in glass cases around the room. He took a deep breath. Hello, my name is Tae-ho. For the past 6 months, I have been studying the quantum communication devices that the Stellari shared with Earth 10 years ago. He picked up his device. It was the size of his palm, with a smooth metal surface and a single blue button. The Stellari version needs a special crystal that's rare and expensive. It also loses 20% of data when used near water. He pointed to the Stellari scientists. No offense, but Earth is 70% water. Your tech doesn't work well here. A few humans laughed nervously. The Stellari didn't react. They never showed emotions in public. So I made some changes. Tae-ho pressed the blue button. A holographic display appeared above the device, showing Earth and the Moon. My version uses materials we can find on Earth. It works perfectly near water. And he smiled a little. It's 30% faster than the original. That's when he heard it. Laughter. Not from the humans, but from the Stellari section. A female Stellari with bright purple skin was laughing loudly, her 4 eyes wide open. Stellari didn't laugh. Everyone knew that. They were serious, logical beings who valued control and calm. But this one was definitely laughing. Tae-ho's face turned hot. Was his project that bad? Was he making a fool of himself? He rushed through the rest of his presentation, showing charts and data that proved his device worked better. But he couldn't focus. All he could think about was the laughing alien. When he finished, the human audience clapped politely. The Stellari sat still, except for the female who had laughed. She was writing something on her tablet. Tae-ho left the stage feeling sick. He had hoped to impress everyone, but instead, he'd been laughed at by an alien. That was good work, said Professor Kim, patting his shoulder. Don't worry about the Stellari reaction. They're different. Tae-ho nodded, but inside he felt angry. He had worked too hard to be laughed at. He needed to know why. After most people left, he saw the female Stellari standing alone by the exit. Without thinking, he walked straight to her. "Excuse me," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Why did you laugh during my presentation?" Up close, he noticed things he hadn't seen from the stage. Her purple skin had small spots that glowed softly. Her 4 eyes were not all the same color. 2 were silver, 2 were gold. She wore a simple white uniform with the Stellari Academy symbol. She looked at him with all 4 eyes. "You are Tae-ho." "Yes. And you laughed at my work." To his surprise, she smiled. Stellari rarely smile at humans. "I'm Nara. I'm studying Earth engineering for my thesis." Her voice had a musical quality that most Stellari lacked. "And I didn't laugh at your work. I laughed because I was surprised." Tae-ho frowned. "Surprised?" "Yes. What you did," she pointed to his device, "is impossible. Or it should be. Our scientists have worked with quantum communication for 300 years. You improved it in 6 months. Oh, Tahoe didn't know what to say. Was this a compliment? Stellari don't laugh often, Nera continued. But when we are truly surprised by something wonderful, we sometimes can't help it. She tilted her head. Your improvement is wonderful. The anger in Taiho's chest began to fade. So, you weren't making fun of me. Making fun. She looked confused, then understanding dawned in all four eyes. No, I was honored to see your work. You think in ways we cannot. Taiho felt relief wash over him. Not ridicule, respect, but something still bothered him. If my ideas are so good, why did none of the other Stellari react? Nera's glowing spots dimmed slightly. Most of my people would never admit that a human could improve our technology. They will study your device in secret and pretend they thought of the improvements themselves. Taiho wasn't sure whether to be flattered or offended. But not you. I am considered unusual among my people. I believe we can learn from humans, not just teach you. She looked around to make sure no other Stellari were nearby. That's why I want to show you something. Something important. Show me what? Nera lowered her voice. I have an artifact from my homeworld. Very old, very valuable. No Stellari has been able to make it work for generations. Taiho's curiosity piqued. What kind of artifact? I can't describe it here. You need to see it. She held out a small card with an address. This is my apartment. Can you come tonight at 8? Alarm bells rang in Taiho's mind. Going alone to an alien's home wasn't something people did casually, especially after Earth's rough introduction to galactic society. There were stories about humans who trusted aliens too quickly and regretted it. Nera seemed to sense his hesitation. I understand your caution, but I think you might be the only human who can help me. And if you succeed, it could change how Stellari see humans forever. Taiho looked at the card in his hand. His rational mind told him to say no. But the part of him that stayed up late tinkering with alien technology, the part that made him improve the Stellari device, that part wanted to say yes. I'll come, he heard himself say. But I'm telling my roommate where I'll be. Nera's spots glowed brighter. Good. Be careful who you tell, though. If certain Stellari found out I invited you. She didn't finish the sentence. Is this dangerous? Taiho asked. Not dangerous. Just political. All four of her eyes blinked at once. I'll see you tonight. As she walked away, Taiho wondered what he had agreed to. An alien had laughed at him, then invited him to her home to see a mysterious artifact that might change interspecies relations. His simple presentation had turned into something much bigger. This is a bad idea, said Hyun, watching Taiho get ready to leave. Going alone to an alien's apartment. Are you crazy? Taiho checked his phone to make sure it was fully charged. She's a student, just like us. She's a Stellari, Hyun corrected. They've been exploring space since our ancestors were figuring out how to use fire. That's an exaggeration. Not by much. Look, I know your presentation didn't go as planned. It went fine. Taiho interrupted. Better than fine. She was impressed with my work. Hyun sighed. So a pretty alien girl laughs at you, then says you're special, and now you're rushing to her place at night. This sounds like the beginning of one of those warning videos they show to new students about alien interactions. Taiho put on his jacket. I'm not rushing. I'm professionally accepting an invitation to view an artifact of scientific interest. Sure. Hyun rolled his eyes. At least text me every 30 minutes. If you don't, I'm calling the Alien Relations Office. I will, but nothing bad is going to happen. Taiho headed for the door. This could be important. Your funeral, Hyun called after him. Don't blame me if you end up as part of a Stellari science experiment. Taiho ignored him. Yes, there was risk in what he was doing. But humans had to take risks if they wanted to be respected in the galactic community. 15 years after first contact, Earth was still seen as the galaxy's newest, most backward member. Tonight might be a chance to change that perception, at least a little. The address Nera gave him led to one of the special apartment buildings built for off-world visitors. The security guard, a bored-looking human, barely glanced at him before weaving him through. Apparently, human visitors to alien residences were common enough not to raise eyebrows. Tai-Ho took the elevator to the 12th floor. The hallway was strange, wider than in human buildings with odd-colored lights that probably accommodated alien vision. He found Nera's apartment and knocked. The door slid open. The apartment inside looked nothing like he expected. Instead of cold, sterile rooms, the stereotype of stellary living spaces, it was filled with plants, some from Earth, others clearly alien with glowing leaves and moving vines. Soft blue light came from floating orbs near the ceiling. The walls displayed moving images of what must be the stellary homeworld, purple oceans and twin moons. Nera stood in the center of the room. She had changed from her white uniform into a flowing silver robe. Her glowing spots were brighter in the dim light. "You came," she said, sounding pleased. "I wasn't certain you would." "I almost didn't," Tai-Ho admitted. "My roommate thinks I'm making a mistake." "Your roommate is wise to be cautious, but in this case, incorrect." She gestured for him to enter. "Please come in. What I have to show you is in my study." Tai-Ho stepped inside, the door closing behind him. He followed Nera through the apartment, past rooms filled with strange objects and more plants. "You have a lot of earth plants," he observed. "I find them fascinating. They're so reactive. Stellary plants are more stable." She stopped at a door. "Here we are." The study was small and circular. Shelves lined the walls, holding books and devices. In the center sat a pedestal with a clear case on top. Inside the case was a sphere about the size of a basketball, covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift when Tai-Ho wasn't looking directly at them. "This," Nera said, her voice soft with reverence, "is a stellar key." Tai-Ho moved closer to the case. "What does it do?" "According to our oldest records, it unlocks knowledge from the early days of our civilization. Technology we've lost, history we've forgotten." She placed her hand on the case. "For 10 generations, our best scientists have tried to activate it. None have succeeded." Tai-Ho looked from the sphere to Nera. "And you think I can help?" "Why?" All 4 of her eyes fixed on him. "Because today you did something no stellary could do. You looked at our technology and saw possibilities we missed." Her spots pulsed with light. "Perhaps you can see something in the key that we cannot." The sphere in the case seemed to glow faintly, as if responding to their conversation. Tai-Ho felt drawn to it in a way he couldn't explain. "Can I look at it more closely?" he asked. Nera hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, but first, I must warn you, if certain stellary knew I was showing this to a human, there would be consequences." "What kind of consequences?" "For me? Exile, possibly worse. For relations between our species, a significant setback." She removed the case from the sphere. "But I believe this risk is necessary. Our people have been stuck for too long, unwilling to accept new perspectives." The sphere sat exposed on the pedestal, its patterns shifting more visibly now. Tai-Ho felt a strange humming in his chest, as if the object was calling to him. "Go ahead," Nera encouraged. "Touch it." Tai-Ho reached out slowly, his fingertips inching toward the ancient artifact. This was either the beginning of something amazing, or the biggest mistake of his life. Tai-Ho's fingers touched the sphere. Instantly, blue light flowed from the patterns on its surface. The geometric shapes began to move, shifting like water under his touch. A warm feeling spread up his arm. "It's responding to you," Nera whispered, all 4 of her eyes wide with wonder. "No stellary has ever gotten this reaction." The sphere hummed softly. Its patterns formed new shapes, some looking like letters in a language Tai-Ho didn't know. He pressed his palm flat against the surface, curious what would happen. With a soft click, A section of the sphere opened like a flower, revealing a small hollow inside. More blue light spilled out. Incredible, Nera said, her voice barely audible. In all our records, there's no mention of it opening. Taiho stared at the open section. Inside was something that looked like a small crystal, glowing with the same blue light. What is this? I don't know. Our legends only say the key contains lost knowledge. Nera stepped closer. Can you take the crystal out? As Taiho reached for the crystal, a loud knock on the apartment door made them both jump. The sphere immediately closed, the patterns going dark. Nera's glowing spots dimmed with fear. I wasn't expecting anyone. Another knock, harder this time. Then a voice called out in the stellary language. Taiho didn't understand the words, but the tone sounded angry. Who is it? He asked. Senior scientists from the Stellary Embassy, Nera translated, her voice shaking. They must have heard about your presentation and tracked me. The knocking continued. Nera looked at Taiho, then at the sphere, making a quick decision. We have to let them in. Hide in the closet there. She pointed to a small door. If they find a human here with the key, it will cause a diplomatic incident. Taiho hurried into the closet. Through a small crack, he could see Nera cover the sphere with its case again before going to answer the door. 3 Stellari entered the apartment. 2 wore the white uniforms Taiho had seen at the university. The third wore a black robe with silver symbols, some kind of high rank, Taiho guessed. Unlike Nera, they all had dark purple skin without glowing spots. Researcher Nera, said the one in the black robe, speaking in accented English. We have questions about your behavior today. Director Junseo, Nera replied, her voice calm now. What behavior concerns you? Junseo's 4 eyes narrowed. You displayed emotional responses during the human presentation. Then you left without joining the official Stellary assessment meeting. Now we find you home with. He looked around the room, his eyes lingering on the closet where Taiho hid. Interesting energy readings. From his hiding place, Taiho held his breath. Could the Stellari detect human life signs? Did they know he was here? Nera stood straight. I found the humans' work impressive. Is showing appreciation wrong now? It shows bias, one of the other Stellari said. Humans must earn respect through proper channels, not from individual Stellari breaking protocol. Junseo walked to the pedestal with the covered sphere. More concerning is this. Our sensors detected key energy from outside. You have no authorization to activate ancestral technology. Nera's spots flickered with what Taiho now recognized as anxiety. I was conducting personal research, as is my right as a stellar scholar. Research that coincidentally occurs after meeting a human engineer. Junseo removed the cover, revealing the sphere. The timing suggests inappropriate sharing of stellary secrets. The sphere sat dark and still, showing no sign of the activity it had displayed when Taiho touched it. Junseo placed his hand on the sphere. Nothing happened. He tried different positions, pressing harder, but the sphere remained inactive. As expected, the key responds to no one. Nera said nothing, but Taiho could see her relief. Junseo replaced the cover. Researcher Nera, your interest in humans goes beyond academic study. The Council has concerns about your objectivity. Humans have potential we ignore, Nera replied. Today's presentation proved that. A lucky improvement to technology we purposely shared in simplified form. Junseo's voice was cold. Nothing more. Taiho felt anger rise in his chest. Simplified form. Had the Stellari deliberately given Earth inferior technology? The humans' device showed genuine innovation, Nera insisted. If we work together instead of looking down on them. Enough. Junseo interrupted. Your views are well known and not shared by Stellari leadership. He paused, all 4 eyes focusing on Nera. However, if you wish to prove your point, there is a way. Nera looked surprised. What do you mean? Bring your human engineer to the Embassy Research Center tomorrow. Let him demonstrate his supposed brilliance with the key under proper supervision. Jun Seo's mouth formed what might have been a smile. If he can activate it as you clearly hope, the Council will reconsider our approach to human collaboration. Taiho's heart raced. They knew he was involved somehow, even if they hadn't spotted him in the closet. And if he fails? Nora asked. Then you will be reassigned to the home system, and humans will be restricted from accessing stellary technology for the next decade. Jun Seo turned to leave. Noon tomorrow. Do not be late. After the three stellary left, Taiho waited a full minute before emerging from the closet. Nara stood frozen, her spots dimmer than before. They knew I was here, didn't they? He asked. They suspected, Nara confirmed. Stellari can sense electrical patterns. Human nervous systems give off distinct signatures. She looked at him with all four eyes. I'm sorry. I've put you in a difficult position. Taiho approached the pedestal and looked at the covered sphere. What exactly happens tomorrow? You will be asked to activate the key in front of the stellary scientific community. Nara's voice was serious. If you succeed, it could change everything between our species. If you fail, Earth loses access to stellary technology for 10 years, Taiho finished, and you get sent home in disgrace. Nara nodded. You can refuse. This isn't your problem. Taiho thought about what Jun Seo had said about giving Earth simplified technology. How many other alien races look down on humans this way? How long would it take for Earth to be treated as equals if everyone thought like Jun Seo? I'll do it, he said firmly. But I need to know everything about this key. What it is, where it came from, why it might respond to me. Nara's spots brightened. The key is from the early days of our civilization, over 10,000 Earth years ago. Legend says it contains the heart wisdom of the stellary, knowledge we've lost as we became more focused on logic and technology. Heart wisdom, Taiho repeated. Creativity, intuition, emotional intelligence. Nara touched the case gently. My people weren't always as you see us now. We changed over time, becoming more logical, less emotional. Some scholars believe we lost something important in that transition. And you think the key might contain that lost knowledge? Yes, but no stellary can access it because we no longer have the qualities needed to unlock it. She looked at Taiho. Humans, however, still balance logic and emotion. You touched the key, and it responded instantly. Taiho remembered the feeling when he touched the sphere, the warmth, the sense of connection. So tomorrow I just need to do what I did today. It won't be that simple, Nara warned. Jun Seo set this challenge because he believes you'll fail. The key may respond differently in the embassy, under observation, with the pressure of knowing what's at stake. Taiho paced the room, thinking, I need to practice. Can I try touching it again? Of course. Nara removed the cover. This time, when Taiho touched the sphere, the patterns lit up even brighter than before. The section opened wider, revealing more of the crystal inside. It remembers you, Nara said with wonder. This is further than any stellary has ever gotten. For the next hour, Taiho worked with the sphere, trying different approaches. He discovered that strong emotions seemed to make the key respond more strongly. When he thought about how Jun Seo had dismissed human achievements, the key opened fully, the crystal rising up from its housing. But he still couldn't remove the crystal or get any information from it. This is progress, Nara assured him, more than we've seen in generations. As midnight approached, Taiho reluctantly prepared to leave. I should go. My roommate will be worried. Tomorrow will be challenging, Nara said as they walked to the door. Jun Seo and the others will do everything they can to make you fail. Why do they want me to fail so badly? Nara's spots pulsed slowly. Some stellari fear what might happen if humans advance too quickly. They prefer keeping Earth dependent on alien technology rather than becoming true partners. Taiho nodded. I've seen that attitude before. People who think they're protecting you by keeping you weak. Exactly. Nara opened the door. Rest tonight. Tomorrow will change everything, one way or another. As Taiho walked home through the quiet streets, he thought about the challenge ahead. He had stumbled into something much bigger than a university presentation or a curious alien artifact. Tomorrow, his actions might determine the relationship between humans and Stellari for years to come. No pressure, he thought with a nervous laugh. Just the future of human-alien relations resting on whether he could make an ancient spaceball do tricks. When he reached his apartment, Hyun was waiting up, worried and full of questions. Taiho told him everything. So you have to activate an alien artifact in front of a bunch of purple four-eyed scientists who want you to fail. Hyun summarized. And if you mess up, Earth gets technology sanctions. That's about it, Taiho agreed. Hyun shook his head. You realize this is way above your pay grade, right? You should call the Human-Alien Relations Office. Let the professionals handle it. Taiho considered this. Hyun was probably right. This was a diplomatic matter now, not just a personal challenge. But something held him back. The way the key had responded to his touch, the look in Nara's eyes when she talked about heart wisdom, a condescending tone in Junseo's voice when he dismissed human achievements. I'll make the call in the morning, he told Hyun. But one way or another, I'm going to that embassy tomorrow. That night, Taiho dreamed of the sphere. In his dream, it opened completely, revealing not just a crystal, but an entire galaxy of lights. And somewhere in that galaxy, voices were calling to him. Voices that had been waiting a very long time to be heard again. The Stellari Embassy towered over the other buildings in downtown Seoul. Its crystal walls reflected the morning sunlight, sending rainbow patterns across the street. Taiho stood at the entrance, his stomach tight with nerves. You still have time to back out, said Hyun, who had insisted on coming along. Let the diplomats handle this. Taiho shook his head. I tried calling the Human-Alien Relations Office this morning. They said it would take weeks to arrange an official meeting. He checked his watch. It's almost noon. I need to go in. Hyun grabbed his arm. This could be a trap. What if they're setting you up to fail? Then I fail. Taiho forced the smile. But what if I succeed? Before Hyun could argue further, a woman in a formal business suit approached them. Her badge identified her as Director My-sun of the Human Liaison Office. Are you Taiho? She asked. When he nodded, she frowned. The Stellari contacted us an hour ago about some kind of technology demonstration. Care to explain why a student is involved in high-level alien relations? Taiho quickly told her about his presentation, meeting Nara, and the challenge with the key. Director My-sun's frown deepened with each word. This is highly irregular, she said when he finished. The Stellari have never allowed humans near their ancestral artifacts before, and making Earth's technology access dependent on one person's performance. She shook her head. I should stop this now. Please don't, Taiho said. The key responded to me. I think I can do this. Director My-sun studied him. The Stellari are extremely logical. They wouldn't set up this challenge unless they were certain of the outcome. They expect me to fail, Taiho agreed. But what if they're wrong? What if humans can do something they can't? After a long moment, Director My-sun nodded. I'll allow it, but I'm coming with you. If anything seems off, I'm ending this immediately. They said goodbye to Hyun, who promised to wait outside, and entered the embassy. The inside was even more impressive than the exterior. The ceiling soared 50 feet above them, with light streaming through crystal formations. Stellari moved gracefully through the large open spaces, their purple skin shining under the lights. Nara waited for them in the entrance hall. She wore a formal silver robe similar to the one from the night before, but with additional symbols on the sleeves. Her spots glowed brightly when she saw Taiho. You came, she said, relief clear in her voice. Then she noticed Director My-sun and straightened her posture. I see you've informed your authorities. Just barely. Director My-sun replied coolly. This is not how interspecies scientific exchange is supposed to happen. I agree. Nora said. But here we are. She turned to Taiho. Are you ready? Taiho nodded, though ready was the last thing he felt. Nera led them through the embassy to a large circular room. At least 30 Stellari were already gathered there, along with a few humans who appeared to be diplomats or scientists. In the center of the room, on a raised platform, sat the sphere, the stellar key. Junseo stood beside the key, wearing an even more elaborate black robe than the day before. He watched Taiho enter with cold, calculating eyes. Welcome to the Stellari Research Center, Junseo announced loudly so everyone could hear. Today we witness an unprecedented event. A human will attempt to activate an ancestral artifact that has remained dormant for generations. Whispers spread through the audience. Some Stellari looked curious, others skeptical, and a few seemed openly hostile. Junseo continued, if the human succeeds, the Stellari High Council will consider expanding technological cooperation with Earth. If he fails, we will recognize that humans are not yet ready for deeper partnership. Director Maisun stepped forward. The Earth government has not agreed to these terms. The challenge was accepted by the human and his Stellari sponsor. Junseo responded smoothly. The consequences affect only the pace of technology sharing, which is at the Stellari Council's discretion. Before the director could argue further, Taiho spoke up. I'm ready to begin. All eyes turned to him. The room fell silent. Nera walked him to the platform. Remember what we practiced, she whispered. Focus on what you felt when the key first responded to you. Taiho approached the sphere. Under the bright lights and watchful eyes, it looked different, older, more intimidating. Its patterns seemed to shift more rapidly than before. Junseo stepped back, a small smile on his face. He clearly expected failure. Taiho placed his hands on the sphere. Nothing happened. The patterns remained dark. The sphere sat cold and still under his touch. Whispers grew in the audience. Taiho felt sweat on his forehead. Why wasn't it working? Last night, the key had responded immediately. He tried different hand positions, remembering what had worked before. Still nothing. Performance anxiety affects many species, Junseo said loudly, drawing laughs from some Stellari. Perhaps humans are not as special as some believe. Taiho closed his eyes, trying to shut out the noise and pressure. He thought back to the moment in Nera's apartment when the key first lit up. What was different? The setting, yes, but also his state of mind. Last night, he had been curious, excited, without the weight of expectations. Now he was tense, afraid of failing, of letting down Earth and Nera. A gentle touch on his arm made him open his eyes. Nera stood beside him. The key responds to heart wisdom, she said quietly, not to fear or pressure. I'm trying, Taiho whispered back. Don't try, Nera said. Feel. She slipped something into his hand, a small piece of paper. Remember why this matters. Taiho looked at the paper. On it was a simple drawing of Earth and a Stellari ship, with the words equals at last written beneath. Something shifted in Taiho's chest. This wasn't about proving himself or even helping Earth get better technology. It was about breaking down the barriers between species, about showing that humans and Stellari could learn from each other as equals. He placed his hands on the key again, but this time with a different intention. Not to make it work, but to connect with it. Blue light sparked beneath his fingers. The patterns began to glow, slowly at first, then brighter. The audience gasped. Impossible, someone whispered. Junseo's smile vanished. A simple reaction, nothing more. But the key continued to respond. The patterns flowed like water under Taiho's hands, forming new shapes, new symbols. The section that had opened before now split further, revealing more of the crystal inside. Taiho felt a strange sensation, as if the key was communicating directly with his mind. Not with words, but with feelings and images. It's fully activating, Nera said, her voice filled with awe. No Stellari has ever seen this. The crystal inside the key rose up completely, glowing so brightly that people had to shield their eyes. Then suddenly, it projected a holographic image above the sphere. The image showed stellari, but not like the ones Taiho knew. These stellari were dancing, singing, creating art. Their spots glowed with vibrant colors as they expressed joy, love, sorrow. They looked free in a way modern stellari didn't. A voice spoke from the key, ancient stellari language that somehow Taiho could understand. To those who find heart wisdom again, we leave our true heritage, not only knowledge of stars and atoms, but of beauty and wonder. We locked away these gifts until those who value both mind and heart could unlock them. More images appeared, stellari working with other species, sharing ideas, creating together. The last image showed what looked like ancient stellari and primitive humans, standing side by side. When the heart-wise return, remember that the universe blooms not through logic alone, but through connection. The light faded. The key closed gently, its patterns returning to a soft glow. The room was completely silent. Then, one by one, the stellari began to talk all at once. Some sounded excited, others confused or angry. Jun-seo stared at the key with all four eyes wide. "This changes everything," he said, but his voice was not happy. Director My-sun stepped onto the platform. "I believe we need to discuss the implications of what we just saw." Before anyone could respond, Nara spoke loudly. "The key showed us our past, what the stellari once were. We valued creativity and emotion alongside logic. We worked with other species as partners." She looked at Taiho. "Humans still balance heart and mind in ways we've forgotten." "That's why the key responded." "This is just one interpretation," Jun-seo said quickly, regaining his composure. "The images require proper study by stellari scholars." "The message was clear," Taiho said, finding his voice. "Your ancestors believed in cooperation and balance. They valued what you call heart wisdom as much as technological advancement." The debate might have continued, but just then, the key began to glow again. This time, without anyone touching it. It opened fully, the crystal rising once more. But instead of projecting images, it split into two identical crystals. One crystal returned to the key, which closed around it. The other floated through the air, directly to Taiho. When he held out his hand, the crystal settled gently into his palm. "The key has chosen," Nara said, her spots glowing with excitement. "Half for the stellari, half for humans. We are meant to work together." Jun-seo looked like he wanted to object, but the evidence was impossible to deny. The key itself had divided its power between the species. Director My-sun smiled for the first time. "It seems we have the beginning of a new kind of partnership." As the room erupted in conversation, Nara leaned close to Taiho. "You did it," she whispered. "You showed them what humans can do." Taiho looked at the crystal in his hand, still glowing with soft blue light. "What happens now?" "Now," Nara said, her eyes shining, "we learn from each other, as equals." The stellari who had laughed at him now stood beside him in triumph. And somehow, that laugh had been the beginning of a change that would affect both their worlds. 3 months after the day at the Stellari Embassy, Taiho stood in front of a large window, looking out at the new Human Stellari Research Center. The building combined both species' architectural styles, Earth materials with stellari crystal accents. Solar panels shaped like lotus flowers collected energy, while water features cooled the air naturally. It was beautiful and practical, just like the partnership it represented. "Thinking deep thoughts?" Nara asked, coming to stand beside him. Her spots glowed softly in the afternoon light. "Just remembering how all this started," Taiho replied, "with you laughing at my presentation." Nara's spots flickered with amusement. "I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing with surprise." "I know that now." Taiho smiled. "But at the time, I thought you were making fun of me. And here we are." Nara gestured to the busy research hall below them. Humans and Stellari worked side by side at various stations, studying the technology that had emerged from the key's crystals. In the 3 months since the key had split itself, teams of scientists from both species had made more progress than either would have alone. The humans brought creativity and intuition. The Stellari contributed precision and deep scientific knowledge. Together, they were unlocking secrets that had been hidden for millennia. "Director, my son wants us in the main lab," Nara said. "The test results are in." They walked through corridors filled with researchers from both worlds. Humans nodded respectfully to Taiho as he passed. He was something of a celebrity now. The Stellari acknowledged Nara with formal gestures that showed their new respect for her. The main laboratory was a huge circular room with the 2 key crystals at its center. Each crystal sat in a special housing that amplified its energy. Around them, dozens of screens displayed data in both human and Stellari writing systems. Director Mai-san waited for them with Junseo, who now served as the Stellari scientific liaison. His attitude had changed dramatically since the day at the embassy. He no longer looked down on humans, though he still maintained formal Stellari reserve. "Good, you're here," Director Mai-san said. "The energy interface is ready for testing." Junseo nodded. This technology could change how both our worlds use power. If it works. The technology they were testing came directly from the knowledge in the key crystals. It was a new way to generate and transmit energy without waste or pollution, something both Earth and the Stellari homeworld desperately needed. The simulations show a 98% efficiency rate. Junseo continued, "But we need a practical test." Taiho approached the test setup. It consisted of a small model city with tiny buildings and vehicles. If the new energy system worked, the entire model would power up without any external source. "Should I?" Taiho looked at Nara. She nodded. "The crystals still respond best to you, and to me." Together, they placed their hands on the interface connected to the 2 crystals. Immediately, blue light flowed from their fingers into the system. The model city began to glow, then came fully to life. Tiny lights shone in windows. Miniature vehicles moved along streets. A small fountain in the center of the model sprayed real water into the air. Full power at 99.4% efficiency. Junseo announced, checking the readings. "Better than predicted." Director Mai-san smiled. "This will revolutionize Earth's energy grid. No more fossil fuels, no more power shortages, and no more damage to the environment." Nara added, "The system heals the land it touches." They watched the model city hum with clean, powerful energy. It was just the beginning of what they could accomplish together. "The Galactic Coalition Summit is next week," Junseo reminded them. "You two will present our joint findings." Taiho felt a flutter of nerves. The Galactic Coalition included over 200 spacefaring species, most far more advanced than humans. Earth had joined only 15 years ago, and was still considered the newest, most primitive member. Or at least, that had been true before the key. "We're ready," Nara assured Junseo. "The presentation covers everything from energy technology to the new medical applications." The medical breakthroughs had been especially impressive. By combining Stellari understanding of biology with human intuitive approaches to healing, they had developed treatments for diseases that had plagued both species for generations. "Good." Junseo turned to Taiho. "The Stellari High Council has approved your request, by the way. You will have full speaking rights at the summit." This was a big deal. Normally, only official representatives could address the full coalition. For a human student to receive this honor showed how much things had changed. "Thank you," Taiho said, bowing slightly in the Stellari manner. "I'll make sure my speech honors both our peoples." The week passed quickly with final preparations. Before Taiho knew it, he was standing backstage at the Coalition Summit, waiting to be called forward. The summit was held in a massive floating platform above Seoul, a neutral space where representatives from hundreds of worlds could meet comfortably. Through viewing screens, Taiho could see the audience. There were beings of all shapes, sizes, and colors. Some looked almost human, others were completely alien. Clouds of gas, crystalline structures, or things that seemed to shift between forms. "Nervous?" Nara asked, joining him backstage. "Terrified," Taiho admitted. 3 months ago, I was just a student trying to improve alien tech. Now I'm addressing beings who were exploring space when humans were still figuring out agriculture." Nara's spots glowed with warmth. "You earned this. We earned this." A voice announced their names, and they walked onto the stage together. The huge chamber fell silent as hundreds of alien representatives focused on the human and stellar pair. Taiho looked out at the audience. In the front row sat the Earth delegation, including Director Mysun and several world leaders. Behind them were the Stellari representatives, with Jun Seo watching with all 4 eyes alert. "Honored members of the Galactic Coalition," Taiho began, his voice steady despite his nerves. "We come before you today to share discoveries made through true partnership between humans and Stellari." Nara continued, "For generations, the Stellari believed we had nothing to learn from younger species. We were wrong. Together, they presented the discoveries from the past 3 months. The energy technology, the medical breakthroughs, the new understanding of ancient Stellari culture and its connection to humanity's own past." As they spoke, holographic displays showed the technologies in action. Clean energy flowing through cities, sick patients being healed, artists from both worlds creating together in ways that honored the ancient Stellari traditions. The audience watched in silence. Many species that had dismissed Earth as primitive were now leaning forward, their attention fully captured. "The key showed us that balance is essential," Taiho explained. "Logic and emotion, technology and art, ancient wisdom and new ideas. Neither species had the complete answer alone. But together," Nara added, "we unlock potential greater than the sum of our parts." They ended by activating a small version of the energy system right there on stage. Blue light spread out from their joined hands, flowing through the chamber, illuminating every corner with clean, beautiful energy. When they finished, there was a moment of complete silence. Then the chamber erupted in sound. Representatives from dozens of worlds stood, making gestures of approval in their various cultural styles. Some flashed lights, others released pleasant scents. The more humanoid ones clapped or cheered. Director Mysun approached the stage, her eyes bright with pride. "You've just changed Earth's standing in the Coalition forever," she told Taiho quietly. "At least 10 worlds have already requested to establish direct scientific partnerships with us." Jun Seo joined them, his formal reserve breaking into what was almost a smile. "The Stellari High Council offers its deepest respect. You have shown us a new path forward." Later, at the reception following the presentation, Taiho found a quiet moment alone with Nara on a balcony overlooking the clouds. The sun was setting, painting the sky in colors that reminded him of her glowing spots. "I never thank you properly," he said. "For what?" Nara asked. "For laughing that day. If you hadn't, none of this would have happened." Nara's spots pulsed with gentle light. "I laughed because you surprised me. Humans are constantly surprising. Is that a good thing?" "It's the best thing." She turned to face him fully, all 4 eyes warm. "Surprises lead to growth, to new possibilities." Behind them, the doors to the reception hall opened. Representatives from various worlds were looking for them, eager to discuss potential collaborations. "Ready to make more history?" Nara asked, her spots brightening with excitement. Taiho nodded. Together. As they returned to the reception, Nara took his hand. The simple gesture caused ripples of surprise and interest among the watching aliens. A Stellari and a human, not just working together but forming a personal bond. It was unprecedented. "Remember when I laughed at you?" Nara whispered as they approached the waiting representatives. "Now you're going to make the entire galaxy laugh. Not at humans, but with them." And in that moment, Taiho understood that they had started something much bigger than improved technology or scientific breakthroughs. They had begun to break down the barriers between worlds, showing that different species could not just tolerate each other, but truly connect. It had all started with an alien girl's laugh, and where it would lead, not even the most advanced beings in the galaxy could predict. But one thing was certain: humanity had found its place among the stars, not through overwhelming power or advanced technology, but through the uniquely human blend of creativity, emotion, and determination that even the oldest species in the galaxy had come to respect. Not bad for a species that was still figuring out interstellar travel.